Well, 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 we're back.
Hi.
I guess it is a Halloween episode after all,
You do kind of the atmosphere that you've curated is giving spooky season.
right? It's making up for the fact that um my lighting sucks compared to Heather's. If you're watching the YouTube, respectfully, we need you lit up. We need to see you.
Oh my God.
Okay? This is for the fans. This is for me. This is for humankind. For the better of humanity as a whole. Okay. But no worries. My ring light is in the mail.
Yes.
I don't mind being lit up myself. I don't mind doing what I can. Okay, I'm here to do my part. Jesus was a Pisces, if we remember.
We do.
I'm a martyr myself.
Oh my God.
Oh, it's just so good to be back. Heather,
Yes.
I can't believe we're here. I can't believe we're doing this finally. The listeners really thought they they sincerely believed we weren't coming back. It's a spooky Halloween surprise, isn't it though? We both have the spooky going down, Heather, too. And I love that your purple sweater is matching your purple lights.
Yeah, it's I didn't really intend on this, but the
It's
lights are
perfect.
actually like blue technically, I guess, but it looks like I really planned this and I did not. Um,
It's in
Thank
flow,
you. Yeah,
as are we.
it's a watery time, let me tell you. So,
Ooh, and then some. And it's been, damn it, I meant to look up the exact last episode, like the date of
I
the
was
last
just thinking that
episode.
myself because I'm like, of course, yeah, my astrological brain is like, so like, I know that like Saturn's about to go direct very soon. That would be funny if we stopped when Saturn went retrograde. I think it might have been like six
Last
months.
updated May 23rd, Gemini. It was Gemini season and when it was Troy Sivan.
Gotcha. Honestly, when did Saturn go retrograde this year? I feel like that's when a lot of planets, or maybe, I don't know. But
That's when we were taking our travels to Europe. Just kidding.
I was
I
like,
wish
wait, were we?
I wish it was because we were doing something really cool and exciting. Um, no, it was just the not the universe being against us, but my goodness, the schedules clashing. Really,
We really can blame capitalism,
100%. We can
but
always and we should
yeah.
blame capitalism.
Wait, June 29th is when Saturn started going retrograde. Um, but we
Hmm.
last recorded around that time, but not on that day, probably.
Interesting.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. And now it's about
Interesting.
to go direct. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Um,
It's good to be back. It's also nice to be in flow for those of you joining us for the first time. While we're here, Heather, I always forget this part, so I should say it before we continue. But ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, guys and gays. Wait,
yeah, that's my audience. No, I want everyone to watch.
girls and straights. What? Okay.
No,
I'm
wait, yeah,
not sure
wait.
how we loop it together at all. If you're straight, get the fuck out of here. No, I'm just kidding. Um, my point is we're in flow, baby. We have been making a point to uh me and Heather Cunningham for the listeners, the astrological queen, the genius, the know-it-all in a good way. The Hermione of this fairy tale. Okay. And it's me, Harry, the fucking himbo himself, running amok. Just thank God Hermione's there to keep me alive. You know what I'm saying?
I never
But,
thought I'd be the Virgo. Oh my God.
and I do mean that with all due
Yeah,
respect.
yeah, yeah.
But Yeah, I am Miranda Merlensky. Jesus. We really are back, aren't we? We're really in flow over here, aren't we? Miranda Lensky, Heather Cunningham, back at it again with the astrology extravaganza, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
is so good to be back. But uh because our schedules have been so fuckety fucked, that is the proper term we're
Yeah.
using. Um, because our schedules have just been like this and hard to manage, we have decided moving forward from this point on, we're going to be a little more in flow with our recording, if you will. And when I say in flow, I do mean we're going to make sure our periods are synced up every time we're recording. No, I'm just kidding. Just more when there's maybe bigger movements, sort of bigger transitions, some definitely some moon stuff. Never not when there's moon stuff, of course. Um, Basically around the beginning, right? We said Heather, like the beginning of like big sort of like season changes too.
Mm-hmm.
We're just gonna be a little more in flow with it because we don't want to completely all or nothing it, right? We don't want to completely stop recording, and you or the fans, the listeners have demanded we never stop recording. Um, and selfishly, we miss each other
Yeah.
and miss doing
Mainly.
this. And yeah, I've just really missed this. And we've missed you guys, missed the
Oh.
listeners. So thanks for being here. Um, and yeah, it's probably going to be more like every other week releases from here on out. For the time being, this could change. This might end up being the best thing for everyone. This might be the worst thing, and we go to daily releases. No, relax, relax. Um, but yeah,
But
I'm just really
follow us on
excited.
Patreon and we can do that. Subscribe.
Loki, 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 Loki. But yeah, regardless, I'm so excited to be back, Heather. It's just so
Me
nice
too.
to be here. And what a beautiful excuse to be back than Halloween in the middle of Scorpio season.
Mm-hmm.
All this dark, sort of spooky shadow vibes,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just like
Mm-hmm.
life, we have the ebbs, the flows, just like astrology. We have the ebbs and the flows, but mainly, right? The light and the dark. I
Yeah.
love embracing the dark personally.
Yeah.
Can't my Pisces ass can't get enough
I'm
of
going to
the
a death cafe in a
yes.
week, which I've never been to, but yeah,
Say it
love
one
it.
more time.
A death cafe? Have you
A
heard of that?
a
I feel
death
like it would be
cafe.
really up your alley. Like if you lived in the same city as me, I would make you go with me because it's
100%.
apparently, well, I don't know. It's yeah, it's like a get together where people talk about death. And like it's supposed, I've never been, but from my understanding, it's like uh kind of a intellectual conversation amongst strangers about death and grief. Um, so yeah, I accidentally stumbled. I might edit this out if it's like horribly uh politically incorrect, but I stumbled upon a AA meeting once and like I was just working at a cafe and then the cafe like turned into an AA meeting and I was like, God, I like this feels so nice just to even like be someone overhearing like people talk about like real shit. Like I was feeling a catharsis just like
I get
yeah,
that.
you know?
I really
Anyway,
do
it
get
all
that.
feels very Scorpio and I'm very excited to go to this death cafe. Um
That's wild. And it's are you are eating and getting drinks? It is like a
I
regular cafe,
I think you can.
but then
But
it's
I
like while we're here, we're like specifically like we are also here
to have a
via
curated group discussion
we're
about
not
this
just here to like
topic.
yeah, like some
Hmm.
people aren't going to come in, grab their food, and then head out. Like everyone who's
Maybe.
coming
I
there is
mean,
there.
like that's how I stumbled upon an AA meeting once. But yeah, I
This is
Um,
so fascinating. I agree. I do think I would low key, high key love it.
mhm.
Um, because as they say, right? There's nothing like, right? Who says this? No, maybe nobody says this, but Pisces specifically in the astrological realm, right? We're thinking about death constantly. It is just always on the brain. It is always on the mind. Um, but also, isn't it the Buddhist, I believe, who like believe that you should like every day you should I don't know if it's discuss death, but like mindfully think about it and not and it's not supposed to, I believe, my fucking apologies if it's not the Buddhist, but I'm pretty sure it's the Buddhist.
Jim
Um
Sexton, the divorce lawyer that I was listening to today on the Diary of a CEO podcast, says it, and I vibe with it, and I'm pretty sure he's a Scorpio.
this
But
idea that you appreciate like the
yeah, that it
present and
should be
life
at the front
more,
of your
right?
mind.
Not in like a
I,
depressing, anxious, like sad way, in like a positive, like,
yeah,
right.
totally. I think the world would be a better place. And that's what Scorpio season's all about. Um,
Ooh, baby,
but
isn't
yeah,
it
I don't know
though?
if it was the Buddhists or, but one of those
Yeah, my apologies if it's
philosophies. Yeah.
Alex will let us know. She's been dying to tell us we're wrong about something for months. I'm so happy we're back for her specifically. Yeah. That's really interesting. I think I would love this. And I do. Yeah, it's what an astrological time and sort of season specifically to be doing so. And well, and that's like right, like Day of the Dead. Um the way our culture, our society, specifically our country as well, the way we celebrate Halloween, is very much about like dressing up, um, and celebrating in our trick or treating, candy, partying way, which, listen,
Gluttony.
this this is where the fucking capitalism gets us. We
Hmm.
can't even appreciate the spirituality behind anything because we're like, God, a break, an
Hmm.
excuse to get batshit crazy. No pun intended, right? Bats. All right. Right? Bats are
Yeah.
Halloween.
Yeah. 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 Totally.
Bats are Halloween.
Yeah.
Bats are so brat. Oh, don't get me going. Um, yeah, it's just like but like technically, right? Halloween stems from like everything. It usually stems from something with a bigger, deeper meaning. And we've adapted it into modern day culture. That's like not the best, or we're totally forgetting like the purpose, but I'm pretty sure Day of the Dead begins, or it's like it's not technically the 31st. I believe it's the 27th. Um I could simply look all this up, but I want to give Alex something to do. All right. Shouts out to Alex
Our
Nightingale.
producer.
I'm Bershon slash intern slash marketing director PR. Our tree pain. She'll love that. She'll love that. I'll explain later, Heather. But
Okay.
yeah, it's like I believe it's like the 27th, and it's all about celebrating um the deceased. Like specifically, I believe like in your family, like your own ancestors who have come before you, or just anyone probably who you have real attachment. That's like what the whole thing is. It's awareness, right, of the dead, and a celebratory um way of being a way of like taking that time out to celebrate the dead while you are part of the living. So
Hmm.
beautiful, right? A much, much bigger scope to it.
Yeah.
Um, just
And of
interesting.
course, it falls just by happenstance during this season that like
Right,
is about death and grieving, I think, a little bit.
right.
I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah. I even if we just get into a slutty costume and try to escape through drinking a lot, I think that the Scorpio archetype will probably hit you in one way or another this season. Not to get all
Right,
depressy about it, but I think it's also symbolically beautiful.
right.
Um, yeah, I don't know. Listening to this divorce lawyer today really made me excited about grieving.
That's really, yeah, wait, will you explain that a little further, Heather? So what was this divorce lawyer? What's their whole thing with
It's fun.
they're just us on the same page of like think about that every day so that you
Well,
live longer and healthier?
yeah. I'm kind of obsessed with this guy. I think the first time I he came into my life was when I was doing a paid audience for the Steve Harvey show, and he was like one of the guests, and I thought he was cool then, and now he's been on my favorite podcast twice. Um,
Interesting.
so he's one of the top divorce lawyers, and he was talking about how the interviewer was asking him like why divorce is such a intense emotional it brings out the worst in people type of thing, and like obviously like I of course it does, but like I he was saying that it's about endings, and then he went on to say that he did his dissertation in grad school about death, and he like tried to get a major in death, but obviously like that doesn't exist. But he had this terminally ill like grandmother growing up who was like dying, and the doctor was like, you only have a few days to live. And then she bounced back and was like fine for a few years, and then suddenly she was dying again, and the doctor was like, I don't think you're gonna make it this time. And then she ended up lasting a few more years, and then it happened again, and it was like a cycle throughout a lot of this Jim Sexton's childhood. And he said that by the time he was like a young adult, he was like so petrified by death, or it was so he started volunteering at a hospice center where because I don't know. I think I looked up his signs once, and he has to be a Scorpio, or he might be a Sagittarius too, 'cause boy, can he talk. But and Sagittarius is coming off of Scorpio and looking for the truth and the philosophies behind these things. But anyway, he's very like I'm trying to he said he has a personality that like when he's afraid of something, he tries to like put it directly in front of him, and uh that to me is also very Scorpio. It's taking the shadowy parts, taking the things that you like fear the most, and I think Scorpio is great at being able to be like to recognize that and then face it and allow the transformation to happen, or just to be strong enough to be like, no, I'm going to take action and deal with this thing, and like in a deep actual real way. And I don't know, you can go your whole life having these insane fears that you never actually address.
And people do.
Hmm.
And I don't mean that like rudely. I'm not trying to shit on like,
No, people do.
but I think that is what's so scary is there's nothing, change, growth, facing our fears. Yes. All of that encompassed, right, is part of the ebbs and flows of life. So while all that shit is scary, on the other end of that is not changing, not growing, not living, not having a present, full, fulfilled life, being content, um, or accepting of, you know, just sort of settling or what, and
That's
again,
the
not trying to,
scariest thing. Like, oh my God,
right, like
stagnation. Ah,
depending on how you look at it, that to me is so anti the whole sort of purpose of what I don't know. I don't
yeah.
know. I'm not, and again, I'm not trying to shit on or judge, obviously. Um, and I think it's totally fine for everyone to have their moments of like being lost, not having a purpose,
Oh,
not
totally.
not growing for a moment. That's those parts are just as important. But yeah, I think that there's so much that accepting of really having a full, fulfilled, living human experience does come with accepting that that's going to come with fear, pain, sadness as well. as the fucking like intricacies of only what life can offer you, feelings that you literally cannot describe or experience or have if you weren't alive in the best, beautiful, most positive way as well.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Can't agree more. I also was listening to, it might have been Christopher Renstrom, an astrologer recently who said that Scorpio, it's ruled by Mars traditionally and Pluto modernly because Pluto was discovered way later. But yeah, but there's like a sort of stereotype that Scorpio's a linked to anger or passion or but I think that is what actually like motivates Scorpio to it is like the energy of transformation
Mm,
and it needs to go through loss and experience it like needs that anger and sort of like bitterness and sense of betrayal to like fucking light a fire under your ass to like transform and do something from like a place of passion and maybe what I'm saying now I'm like, did that link to what you just said? But like the idea, well, Scorpio is also interesting because it's like a fixed sign. So it's water, but it's like they say like ice. So it's like because the fixed signs are Taurus, Scorpio, Aquarius, and Leo. And it's like, and it's stubborn and it doesn't want to change. I just got a
right.
my first professional tarot reading in Palm Springs recently. And we were talking about this. She was like, yeah, the Scorpio thing, man, it's weird because it's like it's a fixed sign and it wants that stability. It wants to like there's a part of its energy that wants things to be steady and secure, but it is also the archetype of transformation and change. And if you have Scorpio like strongly in your chart, then that is like just gonna be a part of your life. But yeah, I just rambled, but
No, no,
um
no. Um, well, and I wanted to add too, I think that's how I like, me and my analogies. I'm back,
yes.
baby.
Yes.
But that's how I kind of look at like Scorpio to me, out of all of the signs, out of all 12 signs, it's not that these other signs can't do this or don't also have this same sort of capability or drive in the same way, but to me it's like Scorpio is the first in line to be like, what'd you say? Time to face my demons, like in terms of sort of like not only just being able to, I think maybe like accept that part,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
also kind of be a little comfortable in that
It
aspect
needs
of
it, I
water,
think, because
the depth.
it
Yeah,
needs that intensity. Like
right.
I
And I
think
think
it
this is where people can, again, every sign you can give a bad rep to, of course, but like in terms of like, this is what we mean. Like there are just depths to Scorpio that they reach, that they have. This is also what makes them so mysterious. It's because like to peel them back layer by layer, to be exposed to so many depths that they do contain and sort of hold, it's a lot. And like, not saying that every sign can't obviously tap into that energy, but I think the way Scorpio is just naturally like deep in so many sort of variations. I don't know if
hmm
now I feel like I'm rambling. I'm sorry. I don't know if I'm making
No, no,
sense,
no.
but
It's a complex Scorpio is one of those complex ones that is it's like kind of when I talk about it, I'm often like meandering because I think it is just such a complex energy. Um but yeah, I agree. I think about Gordon Ramsay all the time in this interview I watched with him where he's so Scorpio. He's like yeah, you got to be willing to risk it all, to let it all burn to the ground, and then that's where you discover. I cannot do a British accent. Oh my God, but like that's where you discover like what you care about, and you get into that
right.
passion, and this is why I was triggered this morning when I was told to come up with a retirement plan, which I get it. But it's just like, I don't know. I have a strong Scorpio emphasis in my chart, and I love the idea of like living kind of from that. Like,
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, Heather, but you just reminded me Scorpio has another, symbolically it's the scorpion, which like it is like that's kind of a cool aspect because like Scorpio, it's in the name, right? But also there are such things as water scorpions. And I think this is also like symbolically people, again, people really sometimes maybe too much really relate the symbol of the sign to the sign's traits and aspects. This is why we know that on the surface level Gemini tends to get a bad rep because it's quote unquote two-faced, right? When it's really like if you get into the depths and understanding of like what that sign really encompasses, yada yada yada. But it's not so much two-faced, it's more of like it's a chameleon and able to adapt to multiple scenarios,
Yeah,
situations,
very
which is
mutable.
actually a strength and not
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily like this negative weirdo psycho thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Um anyways, but same with like Scorpio having the scorpion symbol, right? We tend to sort of think of scorpions as this like scary, poisonous, mean, painful thing, right? But similar to the crab, right? The scorpion has like this hard exterior, right? Soft inside, but not just a soft inside with some pinchers on the claws if you fuck with it. Like poison, venomous. Like again, the scorpion's going to get you deep. It's not just
Mm-hmm.
going to be like respectfully to the crabs, a crab pinch, or like I don't know. I guess maybe a shark could fall under Pisces. Whatever. I'm getting too big with the analogy. But again, you just reminded me that besides the respectful, I love the symbolism with the scorpion itself and how much that does respectfully to me like again, Scorpios are known for sort of holding grudges. I'm like, what's not a perfect symbol than like a scorpion that's like, I'm not just gonna get you, bitch. I'm gonna fuck you're gonna have to like go to a doctor. And if you don't, you might be in some serious trouble. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of a fun way to look at it. But you just reminded me, sorry, the phoenix, that Scorpios also have the symbol, right, of the phoenix, this burn it all down, rise from the ashes, like this almost excitement or thrill to hitting rock bottom because of the
Power
trust.
that comes from that.
Yes, the
And
the inherent trust Scorpios have in the universe of like this is now my chance to slingshot
totally.
away from rock bottom. Sorry, I
Yes.
went so
No, I
I
love
feel like that
that.
was
They're
a long about way.
obsessed. It's an energy that's obsessed with like the life or death stakes. Um,
Right. All or nothing
yes.
because of
Yes.
that like need for feeling alive. It's very like
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
ability to feel so deeply too. I also feel like Scorpios need that sort of like like they really need to feel some shit. Like
Yeah.
they're not just there for a surface level understanding and like sort of
Yeah.
ride for things like that's also why like if you're in a relationship or close with a Scorpio, like their loyalty, their ride or die-ness, like they're serious about what they give a fuck about, which I love,
Yeah. Yeah.
obviously,
No,
as a water myself.
I do too. I do too. Yeah, yeah.
And
They
they
need
embrace
it.
the
And
darkness.
yeah,
It's
I
like there's
really
an inherent
respect it.
yeah. Well, it's just like anything, right? This is tale as old as time, or like these we've heard these quotes a million times. We've all read Harry Potter, but it's like truly like when you think about the light and the dark, it's like what does light not do but shine brighter during the dark or like in darkness, right? I'm pretty
Mm-hmm.
sure that's a Harry Potter quote. Pretty sure that's like, Dumbledore to POV, you're Harry, I'm Dumbledore. Anyways, but I always like have loved that. And then of course, Dumbledore, like later in the series, he's the one who like provides Ron the light. Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked. But again, it is just like a beautiful symbolism of like, yeah, light during the daytime doesn't shine as bright too. So it's like what, there's
Right.
and
Just
it's
like my
not
ring light.
Heather is to the fucking tens, bitch. The nines, the tens, at all with this ring light. I am just God counting my blessings for it. Okay. And with that, Heather, Shall we get a little sidetracked some more? Just kidding. Shall we actually purposely sidetrack into
I'm really excited. Yeah.
the Hollywood horoscope of the hour?
Yeah,
Or
I'm
should I
really, really
say the
excited.
Hollywood horoscopes?
Mm.
Spooky fun times.
Yeah.
Let's get to it. Before we jump in, Heather, I do just want to clarify for the folks, for the fans, for Alex, before she sends me a text. Um, I don't know where I got the date October 27th. That was crazy. Moving forward. Um, but what I think I meant to say was, yeah, so All Hallows Eve, right, is the 31st. That's every year. It's what Halloween low key is. This is specifically with like the Christian calendar, whatever. I don't want to get too into it, but it's All Hallows Eve is the 31st. And then the next like 2 days, the first and the second, that's like the Day of the Dead, whatever. It's all about this moment, Scorpio season, right? When we really explore the depths, the darkness, maybe what's not right in front of our eyes, right? We have to go a little deeper, a little inward, a little more introspective, yada, yada. Of course, this is when this would fall. But I just wanted to clarify my dates. Phew,
Yeah.
that was a close one. That was a close one. Uh, and with that, shall we let the folks know what Hollywood horoscopes we're doing today?
Yeah. I feel like you should, and I will get my little Google.
Yes. So, again, part of the changes, part of the growth, right? Part of these overall Scorpio themes, doing a little something different. We're really excited about Heather, right? Our astrological compass herself, right? In human form. Heather is going to be looking at these charts for like the first time right now, which is fun because we do want to hear her predictions. We want to hear her insights before we dive on in. Um, two, two charts today, the Menendez brothers.
Which Miranda, I was not following this, and I've been like kind of thirsty for a even like as Venus first entered Scorpio, I feel like I've been kind of thirsty for a a murder doc or like something a little bit more true crime to watch.
Yeah.
Not to make light of this shit, but you know, it's
No,
we as
right.
humans have this. I love a true crime. I love going to the depths.
There's a
And I
natural
love
curiosity. We can get it, I get all like the pros and the cons, but regardless of
totally,
where
I
you
do too.
there's
But
also something specifically about being a fucking woman when you're the target demographic, when you're the target audience for a lot of these types of crimes. Just saying. Go on,
also
Heather.
just yeah, I mean, I'm also just always so interested in like the real
Right.
life stories that because astrology is
Right.
nothing if not a lens into humanity and all the dark twisted turns it takes. But yeah,
Say that, Heather.
so yes, so right before we started recording and we were catching up, Miranda was telling me about them because didn't even I live under a rock sometimes. Um,
No, it's because I hyper fixated on this and my ADHD had me down the Ryan Murphy show Monsters, which is all about the Menendez brothers case, and then some later. And then I also after that watched documentaries on it. But yes, for those of you who don't know, just real quick, I feel like a lot of us do know, but the Menendez brothers, the Menendez case specifically, um, happened in 1989, I believe. It might have been, is that the year they did it or the year they were convicted? It's an 80s murder, two brothers, Lyle, the oldest brother, and Eric, the youngest brother. Lyle and Eric Menendez, in their early 20s, brutally murder their rich Beverly Hills having ass mansion asses parents. And it's one of the most famous cases. Again, it's up there with like the OJ, the Casey Anthony's,
Well,
right?
and
These
Gypsy Rose, that was a crazy ass
huge.
story. I don't know, but like, oh my
Mhm.
God, if I were her, I'd probably murder my parents.
You know, and that's just it. That's what this whole sort of Ryan Murphy show on Netflix is about. A lot of sort of why the case has recently been brought up is because I think of the coverage on Netflix that's put it like back into the limelight, but also just sort of more context we have to the literal like sort of the political environment at the time, how the OJ case actually affected sort of the outcome of this too. There's so much shit,
Oh.
right? These cases go so much more deeper, right, than what we also see on the surface. And yeah, we're a little there's a lot that's just sort of different, right, for the times. And yes, a lot of this shit has been brought to the light. Speaking of darkness, speaking of light, right? We're specifically in Scorpio season, yes, but the overall age of Aquarius vibes to it all,
And
et cetera, et
Pluto
cetera.
specifically being the planet of bringing secrets to light, it is the modern ruler of Scorpio, and it's at the last degree of Capricorn. It's been doing that like back and forth, and Capricorn has to do with authority and authority figures, and Pluto's affecting the collective. And I just want to say real fast that that's like a thing that's happening now in the collective that is supposed to continue to happen. Wouldn't be surprised if a lot of that happens this week or this month, where there's more secrets among people in power that are being revealed because of this Mars Pluto opposition. And I won't get too into it right now, but uh, I think it's like no surprise that the P. Diddy shit, that the quiet on set, that there's like a lot in the collective right now that, the darkness is coming to light. And
Yeah,
uh,
there's a
yeah, so
lot
just
we're
want to say that.
peeling. No, yes, thank you, Heather. Literally, yes, you articulated so nicely what my
It's like
rambling,
Scorpio season now, but also we've been kind of in
the
this like
overall themes.
scorpionic, like Scorpio's
Mhm.
ruling planet, like hitting us as a collective in a major way
Right.
just this whole year.
The
Um,
Scorpio generation, right? Which
that
is us,
too. Yeah.
also all having like this big collective Saturn return. That's huge. Like thinking of
Yeah.
your Saturn return on the individual level, but also like the whole Scorpio generation sort of having like on the
Yeah.
collective. I haven't thought about it until more recently.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Us coming into
anyways,
adulthood and yeah.
right.
Um,
So yes, biggest case or one of the biggest cases, and now back in the limelight. And because it's been so back in the limelight, this is like the first time ever that there's been a request for a resentencing. This is just like the first time ever there's ever been sort of any ray of like hope or light um that this case isn't at a dead end or it's not fully wrapped up. And it's just really, yeah, it's
that
really
is the
interesting,
positive power of media.
right?
Anyway.
Sometimes, right? Ebbs and flows, light and
Yeah.
dark,
Yeah.
you know? Um, and yeah, and just sort of like so much on their how their stories have and have not specifically though changed. New evidence sort of now that maybe is in the picture. Um, obviously no one here, right? Astrology does not condone murder, but there's just sort of a lot of like, yes, darkness sort of surrounding that case. And it's like because of sort of because of passing years, because of sort of the spotlight being on them more, it's there's just yeah, exactly that. There's more light in general being now kind of shown onto this case in a way that's like, we maybe need to do something about this. So it's really interesting. So with that, Lyle and Eric Menendez, the Menendez brothers, Heather, what are your
Who should I Google first? Um,
so
I
oh go ahead, go.
Well, yeah, before I let me just say I wouldn't be surprised if there is some 12th house emphasis with the 12th house ruling prison and but also kind of being born into uh victim role, or like just a really kind of situation that feels almost like out of your control,
Mm,
and a lot of family baggage. The eighth house also rules stuff like that, so I wouldn't be surprised if there's some 12th house, eighth house stuff. um yeah, but also maybe fourth house stuff, because that is just your home life and family. And um I'm also wondering if there's a strong Pluto or Mars emphasis, with Mars like needing to fight for something, and Pluto just, being the Scorpio planet of like transformation and going to the depths and dealing with this intense fucking shit.
mm.
Um, yeah.
Well, I was gonna
Uh,
say, I think it's best if you do just maybe say your overall themes because I don't think you know enough about like the brothers or the case and like the brothers individually and the case as a whole to sort of try to dictate or try to what am I trying to say? Decipher
mhm.
between like the two. I think
Yeah.
yeah, this is good just like overall.
Okay, so I'll
Or
just
what do we
Google.
because we have two of them.
Yeah, and I again like yeah, I don't really have a sense of their personalities, but
But I
I
have both their
just
charts pulled up whenever you're ready
okay.
for like um a little more
Um
explanation or your answers. But I'm with you. I'm
so
hearing.
well yeah, let's see. I'm looking. Okay, Eric Menendez? Is
Yeah,
that
Lyle. Lyle is the oldest. Lyle Menendez and then
okay,
Eric
maybe I'll click
Menendez.
on his first. Um, Lyle. Wow. And we have their time of birth on Astro Theme. Oh yeah,
Wild,
all the
right?
Earth. Yeah, Capricorn, Sun, Taurus, Moon, Taurus rising. Oh,
Isn't that something?
Sun on the midheaven in Capricorn. Mars opposite Jupiter. Wow, this is interesting. Um,
The Earth well, and just to sort of like add to this a little
Saturn
bit,
in the
Heather, like
12th. Okay. Yeah.
sort of how the overall theme of the story goes. You don't really know whose full idea it really was. The around this time the movie The Billionaire Boys Club came out, and that's apparently something that Eric watched, the youngest one, and was like inspired by. But the way the story is kind of overall told, it's like Lyle was sort of, Big Brother sort of took the lead on, not that he forced Eric to do this by any means. That was never like ever even a part of Eric's defense by any means. Anyways, but I do think Lyle was more of like in a big brother way as well, like sort of the big brother of this execution. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and then so it was really not funny, but interesting to see all the earth like, oh, he
Right.
had this planned out to the T.
Sort of like a earth sign, like matter of fact, like, well, this is what we have to do because this is the circumstance we're in. And I don't know, I could see there.
Interesting you say that. I am so
Um,
excited for you to watch this show.
I'm excited too. Yeah. Well, okay. So the thing that, oh my God, like strikes me immediately, there's a few really strong oppositions, which is like, an opposition is when two planets are literally on opposite sides of the zodiac, opposite signs. It's like they just do not get along. They represent opposite things, and that's always a source of turmoil in the chart, even more so than a square. But I mean, this chart has it's grand trine central, which is like all the harmony between planets. But what's interesting is that I was just listening to Stephen Forrest, one of my favorite astrologers, talk about grand trines, and it's like having those easy aspects that like people you would think like, oh my God, I wish I had grand trines, but it actually OJ Simpson has grand trines in his chart. And it's
Wow.
not a super common thing, but it's like Stephen Forrest was saying that it's like you catch some lucky breaks sometimes, or like you yeah, like in OJ's case, like d did this really horrible thing and maybe didn't have enough turmoil. I want to be careful how I speak, but like in the end he got away with it, or like there's kind of like a um yeah, with people with grand trines, uh, and I don't know if I mean
Interesting.
but it's interesting that OJ has the same signature, and I don't know this case, and
Right.
I think that if their parents were horrible to them, I'm not here to say that it's undeserved what they did, but
Right.
but yeah, there's like an easy flow of planet interchange. But then there's also Mars opposite Jupiter can get angry Mars and take it over the top, which is Jupiter, and be like impulsive in a moment. I don't, but I think from
Mm,
what I understand, it was a little bit more planned out. Um, Saturn in the 12th, Saturn, the planet of restriction. And I think you said he was 23, which would be a Saturn square in the 12th house of prisons and victimization and needing to deal with death and stuff. And then um yeah, and then there's like some challenge. Oh, and then Moon opposite Neptune is also kind of a there's like some Pisces energy in here with the aspects that is
interesting.
interesting. But yeah, the trines, I don't know. It's really interesting. I almost feel like maybe it takes all of your planets getting on board with each other so easily to like go through with something like that. Um, if that makes sense. I don't
Well,
know.
and that's why, no, it does. Well, and that's why overall, like, again,
Oh, my life.
not condoning like murder, obviously, but that is what is so curious and interesting about the case. It's not like I think this case would look and feel and just obviously be so different if this was just one brother who committed this crime. They both willingly committed this really brutal murder in a very like close proximity and setting, in their home, of their house where their parents were apparently just hanging out watching TV. And so it's like that to me, and maybe this is just the way my fucked up Pisces brain works, but that to me is sort of a very big red flag as to what the fuck was going on in this house. Not to say that a child can't just, want to murder their parents for no reason, right? But the fact that this was two brothers, different in age, both down and willing to brutally murder their parents this way. You don't do that to parents who are super loving when you and like good to you, is what my like heart and brain wants to believe, right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
like that's just it. You don't murder your parents like that when the household is just sort of like chill, cool, happy, normal vibes.
Yeah.
But so all that to say, like, while Lyle, like, yes, is sort of the ringleader, and I think sort of the one who executed the blueprint of the plan, I also genuinely do not believe it was from a place of like, you have to do this, Eric. This is against your will. Um, this is something that still, till this day, they very much love each other and like have always had a very close relationship and never like turned on each other in court or anything like that during the crime. They were always, always, always a team.
Yeah. And when I think about Taurus, I think about like Taurus is known for just like God, right and wrong, like
Mm.
being kind of black and white about things, but also like having such a strong value system and like yeah, I don't know. If I had a sibling and we were both getting totally fucked over, I feel like the Taurus part of me would be like, there's just right and
Fuck
wrong in
this.
situations
Yeah.
like this, and you have to like take things in your own hands. Yes, I don't want to. I don't know even know the situation. I just like am coming from Gypsy Rose, and I'm like justice for Gypsy. But
Well, I think
yeah,
that's also why this, sorry, I just wanted to add, I think especially like specifically speaking of Gypsy Rose, that's like Kim Kardashian, for example, using her baby lawyer degree or whatever they call it. She passed the baby bars, like whatever. Um, Using her baby lawyer degree for prison reform. Gypsy Rose is someone that Kim Kardashian like put her stamp on, and then the Menendez brothers are now like on her. And again, I think yeah, like we're looking at a lot of like these types of cases a little differently. Sorry, go ahead, go ahead.
yeah. Well, I just pulled up Eric's chart, and holy shit, did you looked at it? It's
Mhm.
I mean, it's all at the bottom. It's all in the like sibling, the third house rules siblings, and it's in Scorpio, and there's so many planets there, but then also the fourth house, which rules childhood and home and the home life and the parents and then and then Saturn in Taurus and the ninth, which is like the planet of restriction, but in the Taurus sign of value, or yeah, Taurus sign of values in the house of like your belief systems opposing all of this. This is super interesting, but then it's
Yeah.
also the midheavens opposing it all. And that's sort of like this is all like public, like his public life is in opposition to all this packed energy in the home life. And then Sun conjunct Neptune and the moon on the IC is like, oof, there is like Neptune. There's so much beauty to Neptune and like spiritual transcendence, and it's like associated with Pisces, but it's also like sometimes when it appears like this in a chart, there could be just like a like the victim. I don't know. The like it's that like Jesus archetype a little bit of like God circumstances just like in order to achieve like spiritual transcendence, I guess the archetype is like sometimes it just like gets the shorthand of the stick.
Well, can
Um,
I share something with you really quick, Heather, about the case?
and Pluto in the first, the house of identity, and Pluto and okay, yeah, tell me.
Well, no, also I want to make sure you get to a good
No,
stopping
yeah,
point.
no, go, yeah, go ahead.
But again, because I know you're not super familiar with the case, these boys, when I tell you, truly almost got away with it. They were not ever on anyone's fucking radar, really. They
The Grand Chines.
they made the 911 call, which is also tricky because they do like on the 911 call, they are very upset about it and like acting, like they just came home and this was the situation. And when the cops came, these boys, like the Menendez brothers, were never even like really considered. Um, and they just thought it was maybe like a mob hit. They had ditched their shotguns and like buried them somewhere out in like the woods. So there were no like there was no oh, and they had picked up the shotgun shells apparently before they disposed. And so they made it really like tricky to sort of like even know like what angle the bullets were coming from, how that all happened, yada yada. But the reason they got caught is a very complicated, weird, bad luck, short end of the stick situation. Yes, but mainly because Eric confessed to his therapist that they did it. He was having really bad guilt and really bad nightmares, and I think was becoming like mentally like unwell,
Whoa.
and probably in his Pisces moral way. No, I'm just kidding. But
Yeah,
like
no, no, no. Honestly,
in his martyr way, he said, I can't
whoa.
live like this. But he straight up told his therapist that his therapist was worried that because he was telling him these stories that maybe they were gonna kill him. So he had these sessions recorded, and this therapist had a mistress, it turns out, who the therapist was kind of keeping her in on like what was going on. She knew that the recordings were in like a safe. She they got into a fight, the therapist and his mistress. She took the recordings out of like the safe or the mailbox. I forget what he had them in. I think it was maybe a mailbox, and then just went right to the police and told them, like, I have their confession on tape. And that's how the whole thing, like, that's how they even got caught, was because Eric told. Um, yeah.
This is
And they
so
continued to
wild
tell the
on
therapist because they thought
level.
like the therapist was very like, I won't tell anyone this, like I won't bring this
They
up.
did or just Eric?
That Eric, and then so I guess Eric and Lyle were both seeing this therapist. And I think it was like they had this another thing. They like robbed a few years like before this all went down. This was like their only crime. And again, weird thing for like rich kids to rob, and they robbed like some their friend's dad's safe or something. Like they knew someone's friend was like at like their dad was out of town and they had money. So it's like it is all a very weird whole thing, and it like that's why like aspects of it don't look anyways. But
Well,
yeah, just wanted to add
it's
that yeah, Eric is the reason they like, and they probably eventually maybe would have gotten caught because the mob story wasn't like checking out. So they might have obviously eventually started looking at them, but it truly was because Eric, they had no like evidence or proof.
this is all so wild. Also, so I mean, well, Lyle has Neptune in the seventh, which tends to rule. I would say that house would rule like therapists, or they say it's like counselors, it's partnerships, but it's like people you work with in a one-to-one capacity. And
His
Lyle
brother,
has Neptune. Yeah, Lyle has
they're
Neptune
really,
in the
yeah,
seventh, which is also, again, the archetype of like the victim, spiritual transcendence, loss often, and all that Pisces stuff. But it's also
interesting.
interesting that Lyle has these grand trines and that the sun's at 19 Capricorn, right on the midheaven. Mercury's at 27 Capricorn. We know in life right now, Pluto's been riding the 29-degree Capricorn, zero air Aquarius, retrograding, and then it's finally about to like go into Aquarius for good.
Right.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if like they get to leave prison.
Interesting.
It's like it's interesting that this is coming to light now as Pluto is it's almost like they're a um way for that Pluto transition from Capricorn to Aquarius. It's almost like they are symbolically living out a manifestation, or this story just feels like a manifestation of that like greater archetypal story, if that makes sense.
Interesting. Well, and a huge something that is like just wanted to add something that's like also part of the reason apparently their lawyer is saying that they're requesting like a resentencing is yes, just because of how the trial went down the first time, sort of where we're at, obviously the attention that's been brought on this, and it's like we maybe need to look at this, yada yada. Um, but their behavior apparently in prison has been like really, they have had no issues, since this case. But also they have openly talked about, I think at least maybe Lyle has, I'm not sure Eric, about being sort of prison reform, I believe, like in their own way, and being like an um advocates or sort of, mentors to people in prison too.
Mm,
Anyways, just wanted to add that.
yeah, and his Saturn is in the 12th in Aries. I wonder if the nodes have been transiting over. They probably have. Ooh, yeah. I'd
Interesting
be curious
timing.
what happens, yeah, like later in 2025 also. Um, like I don't know, Saturn in the 12th in Aries could be like, yeah, now you're an authority on this issue of like being in this circumstance. Like, I don't know, using Saturn responsibly would be to like be an
Right.
advocate. Um,
Interesting.
Oh my God. This is fun.
Interesting. It's really fun to have you um sort of guess or take your
Yeah.
swing. That was really, really fun, Heather. And you were, dare I say, spot on a couple times
Well,
in a couple ways.
I mean, yeah, there's things that I expected. His grand chine in his chart is so God, but it's cool that I just listened to that Stephen Forrest interview where he was literally talking about OJ and like,
Right.
and the fact
Yeah,
that they
I
almost
highly
got
recommend
away with
Monsters
it.
for You. Yeah, I highly
Oh, I'm
recommend
gonna
Monsters
watch
for
like
You.
apps. I really
And
don't like
anyone
Ryan Murphy,
else.
but
There's a call. Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm kind of more interested in watching the documentaries, to be
I would
honest.
maybe start with
But
a documentary on Netflix, and then if you're so inclined, I
yeah,
would give the show a watch.
yeah.
Yeah.
I trust your recommendations.
And we've
Um,
already talked about, we both know how we feel about Ryan Murphy as it is. I've already told you off the record. It's sort of where there was some flack.
Off the
uh,
record, I didn't get to eat on set.
yeah. Oh my God.
Anyway,
Your
um,
Honor. Your Honor. Anyways. Yeah. Interesting. I'm really keeping up with the Menendez Brothers case. I'm obsessed. I can't, and
yeah,
it
this is
felt like the
fascinating.
perfect time to sort of, not to make a mockery out of it, but
Oh,
it is a
absolutely
spooky
not.
season. It's Halloween, right? But it's also, it's just sort of, it's happening right now. Very Scorpio, very overall Aquarius vibes, authenticity, truth coming to the surface, right? Light coming to the dark. Yeah, it's very on brand. And with
Hmm.
that, Heather, shall we let the listeners know what the heck's going on? These movements, these planets, these moons, these stars, all of it.
I don't even feel like, oh my God, it's a lot this month and it's a lot at the beginning of this month. Or sorry, we're not in, well, no, when this comes out, it will be November, right? The
Right.
new moon,
Or the 31st. We'll see.
yeah, but yeah, when I say that, I'm talking about November, obviously.
Right.
The new moon in Scorpio, we start on November 1st with this new moon in Scorpio. And it's an interesting one. I mean, I feel like new moons in Scorpio are always kind of energetically loaded just because of what the Scorpio archetype represents and how it is like rebirth. I mean, it is like the planet or the sign, sorry, most associated with like rebirth. And new moons are also just symbolically like a rebirth period, and the moon is emotions and Scorpio is the deepest emotional sign. So already, it's packed, but then with this one, we have Mercury in Scorpio as well, like right next to the new moon, Scorpio
Hmm.
being or Mercury being the planet of communication, but also like how you think about things. And often people who have, I don't know, Mercury and Scorpio is kind of associated with like the therapist, or it's like the planet of communication and
Hmm.
intellectualizing the deep emotions. So there's that. And then Neptune, Pisces planet, many astrologers would say, is also forming a harmonious trine to this. So there's kind of like a nice spiritual
Ah,
ability to sort of like
dream a
take
little bit.
a dream a little bit, but also like, yeah, take that higher mystical, um,
Approach.
transcendent sort of point of view.
Mm.
But there's also complicated dynamics
Uh,
at play because this whole it's already kind of started where Mars in Cancer, which Mars is spending so much fucking time in Cancer, is opposing Pluto in Capricorn at its final degree. And those are both of Scorpio's ruling planets, and they're in opposition right now. And it's kind of like I mean, they're both planets are kind of associated with like passion and uh fighting for something. So there's that at the same time.
mm.
And so there's a lot of different energy. It's a very dynamic
A
start
little,
to the
there's
month.
some clash.
Yeah, where depending on how this hits your chart, you could be feeling the more aggressive tones of it, or you could be feeling the more like emotional, transcendent, spiritual acceptance part of it, but it's loaded. Um, but then on November 4th, Mars enters Leo, which I think is kind of nice because basically Mars has been in Cancer for a bit now, for I want to say more than a month, maybe a few months. It's been moving slowly. And then it's going to retrograde for a while back into Cancer, and then it's going to go direct again. And we basically have like 6 months of, I think it's 6 months of Mars in Cancer, and Mars isn't very comfortable in Cancer because
Mm.
Mars likes to confront things. It's Aries. It's like, let me go and
Ah,
get what I want. And Cancer is the crab that sidesteps and needs to go into its shell. And like,
maybe
it's
wants to internalize, not so much
totally.
act.
So I feel like it's been a tricky time, especially for people who have strong Cancer energy in their charts, or where this is, or like Capricorn, it would be affecting Cancer, Libra, um, Aries, like especially those signs, if you have placements there, yeah, it's like you can't really go directly into getting what you want. But that's also kind of
Right.
Scorpio energy, is like planning and calculating and planting seeds, and that's kind of part of this time. So,
Preparing for the growth,
yeah,
getting like
so
really clearing out the new, like fresh soil, trimming up the roots, putting
yeah.
ourselves into a bigger pot so that we can expand,
Ah, love the
perhaps.
plant metaphors.
And that
Yeah.
comes with getting a little dirty and uprooting.
Exactly, exactly. But yeah, it's okay if we
We're
can't
back, baby.
like get what we want right away, because we
Right.
might later find out there's a reason for it.
Oh, patience.
Hmm.
Mm, not Scorpio's favorite, but
Well,
right?
Scorpios thrives. I mean, I feel like
Impatience.
Scorpio like wants
Mars. I'm
things
sorry.
intensely. Yeah, Mars,
You were talking about
Aries,
Mars
it's
and Aries. I'm so
not.
sorry.
No, it's okay. Scorpio's really good at playing the long game.
Right. Truly.
Um, yeah.
I'm like, oh, that I can see
Yeah. But no, Mars,
in a beautiful
no.
way.
Hmm.
Oh, wow. I'm just so happy to not only just be experiencing these transitions and these changes, to be talking about them again with you,
I
Heather,
know.
to be back on the mic
Mm,
where our fans want us. The listeners have been
yes.
desperate for this. I'm so happy we were able to deliver a spooky, fun Halloween episode. There's a lot in sort of in transition, in movement, but especially on the horizon. Feels like there's a lot of prep happening during this time and in this moment. And again, we just have to have some Scorpio patience
Hmm.
during the dark crevices. Light is around the corner. We have to have that trust. That's why
Always
Scorpio's able to
trust.
do it. Yeah,
Yeah,
beautiful time.
it
Beautiful, Heather.
is. And
Thank you.
I'm trying to get better. I will just say right before we end here that I do readings. I'm trying to get better about promoting myself,
Yes.
which is uncomfortable.
I was talking
Um,
about you at a party this weekend, actually.
oh, good. I do readings, and I'm willing to work with you. My cheapest option is $15 for like a written up one. If you have a specific question or want just like a page that you can refer to
Mm,
from a not AI person, like a real person who can look at your chart
yeah,
and try to really look at it from a nuanced perspective. Yeah, consider it. I
do
want to help
it.
people.
Uh, and help you shall, Heather. Follow us everywhere at Hollywood Horoscopes. We love you, sending you infinite abundance. Mwah. Happy Halloween. Trick or treat, bitches. See you next. Well, in a couple
See you
weeks
soon. See you
ish.
soon.
See you in flow. Yeah, see you soon.
Bye.
Love you. Bye.